Unraveling the Seeman Holtz empire. Seeman Holtz Insurance and Investments were crushing it in the early 2010s. Their multiple businesses were growing like crazy with clients across the entirety of the US. Their formula was not much unlike the IndyCar Formula racing car they sponsored through David Letterman's team. Every time you opened up a newspaper or turned on the news in Palm Beach County, Florida, you would see a group from Seeman Holtz who were smiling and handing oversized checks to local nonprofit organizations. Seeman Holtz was also on a buying spree, purchasing up small insurance companies throughout the U.S. and all major regions. The building at the intersection of Yamato Road and Dixie Highway was a multi-story glass structure, displayed their name Seeman Holtz for the rich East Boca Raton residents to see every time they drove by. The owners of the company, Marshall Seeman and Eric Holtz, met at Washington State University, where they were roommates and co-captains on the football and track teams. In 1998, they teamed up in business to create the company Seeman Holtz. They were a wealth management and financial services company working exclusively with senior citizens. If you were looking for wealthy seniors in the late 1990s, Boca Raton, Florida was a great choice. As time went on, they further branched into property and casualty insurance. If this seems like boring stuff, it was not for them. They were go-getters. With Marshall's brains, they were able to continually come up with new ideas in this seemingly boring industry. Ideas such as buying up tens of insurance firms across the U.S., which were strategically located near large retirement populations, was a big winner. Now they could set up sales teams to sell the seniors some of the interesting products they had cobbled together to provide a guaranteed income free of the stock market. Through experience, they had figured out that seniors wanted safety in their investments above all else. What better way than to come up with the product they call para-longevities? They had seen how companies were buying out structured settlements, annuities, and lottery payments in exchange for lump sum cash settlements. The large companies buy out these settlements and annuities for pennies on the dollar from people who need the cash immediately. Why couldn't they do the same thing, but with money from individual investors by providing the investor a guaranteed income? Seeman Holtz could pay back their investors at a rate just a little better than current money market account or bond rates. Seeman Holtz could then collect the bulk of the money for themselves. They didn't even have to use their own money to do this. All they needed to do was find those willing to sell them their annuities and structured settlements. Since they had purchased all of these small insurance firms, they now had the sales teams strategically located to reel in the investors. Marshall was the main brains behind the operation. He was the lead idea guy, and Eric was the on-the-ground foot soldier who implemented the ideas Marshall had come up with. Eric was in charge of the sales guys and pushed them with rah-rah talk and passed out crazy money on bonuses, zlowies, and salaries to motivate the teams. This all worked out seamlessly until it got too big and started to collapse right out from under them. Is this a classic Ponzi scheme, or is it something different, more sinister? Chapter 1. The client's client number one is a businessman and was a Seeman Holtz client for many years. From here on out, I will refer to him as client number one. In 2015, client number one met the Seeman Holtz salesman through a friend. I will call the Seeman Holtz salesman Sales Guy. Sales Guy had some really good ideas to make guaranteed income without the risk of the stock market. Client number one's friend had bought this guaranteed 8% per year product that he was quite happy with. Client number one decided to meet with Sales Guy to see what his company, Seeman Holtz, had to offer. When client number one met with Sales Guy, he explained how he had not had luck with the stock market. Client number one was looking for something ultra safe with no risk to the principal. Sales Guy said that Seeman Holtz had the perfect product for him. It was called the Para-Longevity Program. Sales Guy brought up the infamous commercials constantly playing on TV from J.G. Wentworth. Sales Guy provided an example of someone who was struck by a city bus and had won settlement from a city for $1 million. Those settlements are almost always annuities that are paid out over many years. Companies like Seeman and Holtz and J.G. Wentworth pay these settlement clients pennies on the dollar to buy out their settlements. They get cash now, and Seeman and Holtz takes the monthly payments for the remainder of the settlement period, which is many years into the future. This is a common no-risk investment that companies have done for years. And for investors, this is a risk-free win-win situation. Seeman Holtz sells allotments of these investments for periods of 3 to 5 years. The payments at this time were 8% tax-free to investors such as client number 1. Client number 1 could also make a little more than 8% if I waited for the end of his 3 years to get full payment. This sounded like a great deal to client number 1. He then investigated the company Seeman Holtz online and found only glowing reviews. They also were well known in the area of Boca Raton for donating to many charities. Their LinkedIn account had many articles and pictures of the two owners, Marshall Seeman and Eric Holtz, holding up large checks donating to local nonprofit organizations. Client number 1 also drove by their headquarters on Yamato Road in Boca Raton and saw their name on the side of a glass multi-story building. Still being careful, he only purchased a $50,000 3-year paralongevity with Seeman Holtz at their office in Boca Raton. He was to be paid monthly by check for 3 years and could then get his principal back. Fast forward 3 years later. Seeman Holtz had not missed a single payment. Client number 1 always received his monthly interest check on time at the end of the month. Client number 1, being very careful, decided to get his $50,000 back at the end of the contract. He wanted to make sure that Seeman Holtz had his money available. Within 30 days, he had his $50,000 check back and seemed great. Since he got all of his money and interest back on the first purchase, on March 30th in 2017, client number 1 decided to purchase a second paralongevity with Seeman Holtz. It was a 5-year, $100,000 paralongevity. He sent it to Seeman Holtz fax on March 30th in 2017. The monthly payments and principal were to be fully paid back to him on March 30th in 2022, the full $100,000. Not soon after this purchase. In 2017, client number 1 purchased 3 more paralongevities at $100,000 each. After these further purchases, he had $400,000 with 4 different paralongevities with Seeman Holtz. On December 15th in 2019, client number 1's 13-month paralongevity was due to be paid back in full. Client number 1 was not paid his money back. When he did not get his money back, he contacted Sales Guy, who stated that Seeman Holtz was having a liquidity issue with a $15 million offering. This is when things started to get interesting. All of client number 1's normal monthly payments then stopped. Sales Guy called him and said the monthly payments would pick up within 2 months. This was all due to the same liquidity issue from his earlier repayment. It took a good 6 months of multiple calls and work for client number 1 to get his money back. Through emails and phone calls, client number 1 described a litany of lies from Seeman Holtz, CFO Brian Schwartz, and Eric Holtz. Client number 1, who created websites for a living, had put up a website, SeamanHoltzComplaint.com. This website detailed every interaction with Seeman Holtz, and client number 1 says this is the only reason he got his money back. The website led to ridiculous threats from Seeman Holtz's attorney, Scott Orth, to take the website down. At this point, client number 1 was getting hundreds of daily visitors to the website and multiple emails and phone calls from other victims. The majority of victims were the elderly, and the stories of their losses was staggering and heartbreaking. Seeman Holtz focused on senior citizens who gave their life savings for this guaranteed income, free of stock market fluctuations. All payments had stopped for them at the same time they stopped for him. Finally, by the fall of 2020, client number 1 had received all of his money back in agreement to take his website down. This was not before he had filed reports with the Better Business Bureau and a financial investigator with the Bureau of Financial Investigations in Tampa. He was advised that they were in the process of shutting down Seeman Holtz and are collecting information from many of the victims. Client number two. Client number two is a senior retired woman whose husband had died, but purchased multiple policies with Seeman Holtz so she could have money for the rest of her life. This client's husband had sold all of their retirement investments after meeting a young man in the Orlando, Florida area who promised them a guaranteed income for life, which was better than they could get from the stock market. Not long after purchasing the investments with Seeman Holtz, the husband had died, and the checks stopped in the start of 2020. Her children spoke with lawyers, and she had to move back in with her son's family due to being unable to keep the house she lived in with her husband. It is now many years later, and she has seen no money, but knows that Marshall Seeman is living in a multi-million-dollar apartment in Boca Raton and has not been arrested. More clients. I do have email accounts from further clients, but they all seem to be in the position of client number two. It is heartbreaking to rehash each story. Let's just leave it with Seeman Holtz and cohorts stole their retirement money and made their clients' lives miserable. Chapter 2, Filing of Court Case and Shutdown of Seeman Holtz and All Entities. Court filing. Date July 12, 2021. Division name Circuit, Civil Central, Palm Beach County. Florida. Main defendants Marshall Seeman and Eric Holtz, both partners, and Brian J. Schwartz. CFO. At the time of the court filing, it was estimated that Seeman Holtz owed $300 million in outstanding notes with over 1,000 investors and were left with assets of approximately $110 million. The initial court filing stated, as early as the mid-2000s, when the life settlement industry was in its infancy, defendants Seeman and Holtz were active in buying and selling life settlements, in addition to their then principal business of selling life insurance and other insurance products through National Senior Insurance from offices in Boca Raton, Florida. Since 2011, Seeman and Holtz, as president and vice president of National Senior Insurance respectively, and as its 100% owners, have managed and controlled National Senior Insurance and its sales agents. These sales agents would become the vehicle through which the Seeman and Holtz Enterprises' unregistered securities were offered and sold. At all times material to this complaint, Seeman and Holtz were each authorized signatories on National Senior Insurance's bank accounts, and most checks were issued utilizing Seeman's name as the signatory. This was powerful stuff reading this. It is a shame it took about 1.5 years to shut these guys down. They had more than enough time to hide assets and cook the books further. The state of Florida Office of Financial Regulation recommended to the court that Daniel J. Sturmer become the corporate monitor to handle the complicated case of the 27 corporate entities. Marshall Seeman, Eric Holtz, Brian J. Schwartz created. Daniel J. Sturmer's firm is Development Specialists Incorporated. Development Specialists Incorporated provides a multitude of services including forensic accounting and litigation support and expert testimony. Sturmer created the website nationalseniormonitorship.com to keep claimants up to date on the status of the case. The corporate monitor's standard hourly rate was set at $425 per hour when he was initially assigned in September of 2021. Chapter 4. The Death of a Salesman. June 11th, 2021. Eric Holtz does the unthinkable and takes his own life. No details are provided in the court records other than this has been confirmed. Chapter 5. Seeman Holtz. Sales team, ex-employee. Paul Capella, a regional director of sales at Seeman Holtz, sued Seeman Holtz on September 20th, 2020, in West Palm Beach Circuit Court for commissions they owed him. According to court documents, he was being paid $18,000 biweekly, not including commissions. In the month of May 2018, his monthly commission was $350,000. Capella was suing Seeman and Holtz for failing to pay him over $1.37 million in commissions. The case was closed after a non-disclosed settlement was made. The level of money these sales personnel were making was astounding. Ex-employees of Seeman Holtz are not too hard to track down. The Internet Archive provides copies of old websites, which lists many of the names of the sales teams. In our research, we found that for the most part, they have hidden the fact that they have worked for Seeman Holtz. Do you blame them? I have gleaned some information from statements they have made in court records. It seems that when the payments stopped for the clients, there was a list of preferred clients maintained by Seeman. He controlled the master list of friends and family who got paid back for their investments. If you were a standard client, you had little to no chance of getting paid back. If you were on the preferred list, most likely you were paid back until his funds ran out in the fall of 2020. So this is what they were up to in that year and a half. It took the state of Florida to file charges and shut them down. Sturmer is currently working on clawbacks from some of the sales team's commissions paid. It appears like Holtz's old sales team is folding like a cheap suit. Per court records, Sturmer filed a lawsuit against one salesperson for $249,667. The salesperson has agreed to pay back a lower amount, which is redacted in court documents. The ex-employee has further agreed to cooperate with the receiver and his counsel and any investigative or litigation involving claims. He cannot claim Fifth Amendment rights. Sales guy number 2. Sturmer filed a lawsuit against him for $299,608. Sales guy number 2 has agreed, in lieu of repayment of any of these monies, to fully cooperate with the receiver and his counsel, and any investigative or litigation involving claims. He cannot claim Fifth Amendment rights. Sales guy number 3. Sturmer also agreed on a settlement with another ex-employee in a similar manner by filing lawsuits for clawbacks. No information is provided on court documents, as they have been approved by a judge to remain confidential. Through reviewing online records and court documents, I found that the sales team with Seeman Holtz, for the most part, are still working as retirement advisors. Through court filings, the receiver, Sturmer, found enough evidence that they were culpable for civil crimes in relation to the Seeman Holtz crime. Yet, they have gotten off almost entirely by still working in the industry of financial planning. With 3 ex-salespeople agreeing to a deal, the state of Florida can get enough information to cross-examine them and get to the bottom of culpability on this organization. We can only urge the state of Florida, Office of Financial Regulation, to pull any licenses they have with the state of Florida, or they will do it again to clients. The ex-employees look like they are right back to selling pre- and post-retirement products to seniors without disclosing what they have been involved with crimes while involved with Seeman Holtz. Chapter 6. Brian J. Schwartz, CFO of Seeman Holtz. Court case filed on August 30th, 2022. Brian J. Schwartz, CFO of Seeman Holtz, and related companies filed suit in West Palm Beach, Florida against Seeman Holtz and related companies for monies owed. Per court documents, Schwartz at Seeman Holtz and Companies was being paid an annual fixed salary of $260,000. Schwartz was suing his ex-company, Seeman Holtz, due to being owed $310,000 of unpaid compensation, along with $245,000 for attorney's fees. On November 16, 2022, Brian J. Schwartz voluntarily dismissed his own lawsuit against Seeman Holtz. There is no further information provided in the court documents. February 27, 2023. Schwartz was sued by his landlords for lack of payment at his apartment at 500 South Ocean Boulevard, apartment 1401 in Boca Raton, Florida. The apartment's estimated value is $1.8 million. Schwartz has not paid $6,000 in rent. Schwartz stated in documents that he is having personal financial issues and has always paid his rent for the past 8 years and is just having issues now for the past 4 months. April 11th, 2023. A writ of possession was provided by the court for the landlords, and Schwartz was evicted. On April 12, 2023, Brian J. Schwartz is reported to have passed away, according to the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit, Palm Beach County. There are no further details from the court. I also could not find any other information online regarding his untimely passing. We can only speculate on his cause of death, as he was evicted from his apartment the day before his passing. Chapter 7. Court Case. Update August 31st, 2022. Reported per Daniel Sturmer. Total number of claims, 1,437. Total number of individual claimants, 1,139. Total amount of claims, over $342 million. Total amount of noteholder-related claims, over $308 million. Total amount of trans non-individual noteholder creditor claims, over $33 million. October 17, 2023, from Daniel Sturmer. Posted on nationalseniormonitorship.com. As of today, our current cash position is in excess of $3 million. Many have asked about certain individuals and why criminal charges have not been lodged against them. Under Florida law, active criminal investigations conducted by state or local law enforcement are confidential until a charge is filed or an investigation is closed. Only the investigating agency has authority to release information about an ongoing investigation. Therefore, I am not at liberty to confirm or deny the existence of any criminal investigation with respect to this matter. Chapter 8. Last Man Standing. Out of the big three, Marshall Seeman is the last man standing. In March 2022, he sold his home at 1300 Thatch Palm Drive in Boca Raton, Florida, for $7.35 million. He then purchased an apartment at number 200 Southeast Meisner Boulevard in Boca Raton, Florida, for $3.635 million. He also has his lawyer, Scott Orth, as the title holder. According to Zillow.com, the current value of the home is worth over $4.3 million. The monthly HOA is approximately $2,262 a month. It appears Seeman transferred the title to his lawyer for legal representation or protection purposes. This can happen in cases where the owner is facing legal issues such as lawsuits or creditors. Chapter 9. Final questions. Will the victims of the Seeman Holtz crimes get their money back soon? How much will they get back? Most of the victims are elderly and are passing away. The receiver, Sturmer, has a very complicated web of businesses to unravel to close out his side of the case. Maybe the state of Florida can help him out by assigning more people to help the victims get their money quicker. It will cost more in salaries, but these people need their money back. When will the criminal case be made public and arrests made? Will Marshall Seeman be the only one arrested? It has been many years. Let's get moving on this, guys. Justice needs to be carried out.